So from that very defining competition, I think we can clearly say the sisters laid the smackdown on the brothers this week. All right. So, so even though what's it called? You did try to bust it down. I could see you trying. The sisters clearly won that competition. But I have to say the design sucked on the sister side, and the brothers did win the.
So we get sweets as well.
Huh? No, only the sisters get sweets. That wasn't part of the competition. So heads up, guys. 1, 2. And 1, 2. Okay. No. Okay. Thank you much. Huh? Not 1, 2. All right. Settle down, guys. Settle down. Sorry? Yeah, don't worry. We're going to get some food, inshallah. Don't worry, inshallah. Okay. So, guys, settle down, inshallah. Settle down. Okay. So, inshallah, we're just going to hopefully finish off this last verse, and then we'll play some Xbox or whatever you guys have planned later for the evening. So, to continue from the first part of the class, I mentioned to you that the condition of man is in severe loss. We're always drowning in time. We're always being distracted and being pulled away from desires and whatever the world can throw at us. But God mentions that there are 4 things which guarantee us success if we hold on to these 4 things. And because it says here, except. So these are the exceptions, right? And thank you very much. And therefore, these 4 things, we covered the first part, and that is Iman. Iman is having faith. That step of faith that you gotta have in putting God as your center. Putting God as your center, right? Now the second quality, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Now, this is a very interesting part because it translates as those who do righteous deeds. Those who do righteous deeds, okay? Now, the word salihat, it just doesn't mean righteous. Salihat actually comes from the word islah. And islah means something that you reconcile or put together, right? So if you had like a busted up shirt, like a tear or a split, you would give it to some sort of, what do you call them who fix up the shirts? What do you call them?
Tailor.
A tailor, right? You give a tailor and he does islah with the shirt. He reconciles the shirt, right? Now, this is very interesting because that is a very broad term that can cover a lot of different things. From the last class, what are the 3 relationships which we were supposed to have?
Iman,
What the hell are you doing? No, the 3 relationships. The 3 relationships. 3, huh?
It's one with Allah, the one with the people, and one with yourself.
Not people, what's the general?
Creation.
Okay, well done. Okay, so well done. Okay, so 3 relationships. One with God, one with creation, and one with yourself. Okay? You have to always work on reconciling all these 3 relationships. The first one, to reconcile with God, right? We all know that we've made sins. We've done sins. And none of us is free of that, okay? And we've done wrong to God, right? By sometimes slipping up the prayers, or trying to, not follow, try to find a loophole in how He works with us, right? And we obviously know ourselves better than anyone else. And obviously when we acknowledge that mistake, we have to then repent for that mistake towards God, right? Creation, okay? We have to make sure we reconcile our relationship with His creation in everywhere form, okay? Why? Because when it comes to, especially towards your next life, God can forgive you for all the sins you've done with Him, but God will not allow you entry in heaven unless the creation you have wronged forgives you. I'll repeat. God will not allow you entry in heaven unless you reconcile or the creation that you have hurt has forgiven you. Right? I'll give you a very clear example. What is ghiba in Arabic? What is ghiba? Backbiting. Okay? What is zina? Fornication. Zina is fornication. Which one is worse? Backbiting. Why is backbiting worse than fornication? Huh? You don't know. Okay, right, okay, so.
Because Allah can
Okay, excellent. Well done. Candy, right, okay. So.
And is it also like eating the refreshing people?
Okay, here you go. Well done. Okay, nearly there. Okay, nearly there. Right. So, the reason why backbiting is worse than fornication is because fornication is only a commandment you've broken with God. That's the only commandment you've broken, right? But when you backbite, you've broken two commands. One is a command between you and God, and one is a relationship you've broken with His creation. God can forgive you for fornication because that's just between you and Him. But when you make it about other people, now you've broken two violations. So God can forgive you for breaking that commandment, but until the person you've backbitten doesn't forgive you, you can't enter heaven. You cannot enter heaven. So it's a very severe thing. Always try and reconcile your relationship with His creation. Whether it's an animal, whether it's people, whether it's the environment, reconcile before you wreck yourself. Right? Yep.
How can we reconcile with people that we have bitten?
So, okay, so I've read quite a few opinions on that matter. One opinion says you should tell them and then you should ask forgiveness from them. And that's a lot tougher to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's one opinion. Another group of opinions I've read is where you shouldn't tell them, and whenever you see them in the company you've backbitten them about, you praise them instead. Another option is that you can give charity in their name, so that can hopefully dissolve, you know. I'd say to get a more clear answer, speak to a sheikh. I'm not a sheikh. Okay, yeah?
So, like, it goes back to that point where you've harmed something, you can't enter heaven unless you've, like, got reconciled with the things you've harmed in life. What if you killed a fly?
What if you killed a fly?
Yeah.
Okay.
The fly can't tell you, oh, I forgive you because it's dead.
Oh, well, what was the... Okay. You see, the thing is like... No. You see, the thing is like, you have to understand that they're inanimate for us, right? They're inanimate in this world, right? But in the next life, they'll be able to speak. They'll be able to speak. Now, specifically, there's some... Sorry? I don't know. I'm not qualified to even give an answer on that. I'd say speak to a scholar about that. I wouldn't know what to tell you. I wouldn't know what to tell you. Yep.
What about if you two believers have an argument?
Yeah.
Both like cursing each other.
Yeah.
And then one believer apologizes to the other believer, but that believer doesn't forgive him.
Okay, so the thing is, unless they forgive you, it's very, very difficult. So. Yeah, I know. What's it called? As far as I've read, unless they forgive you, they'll hold you accountable. You know, that's what I've read. I mean, there are other ways to get around it. Like some scholars say, no, if you've done your part, then you can testify in front of God. I tried to reconcile, but that person, I don't know. God knows best. Yep.
Can you partially forgive?
Partially forgive. Oh, wow. Okay. I like that. So I know. So you know, there's that. What's it called? Because I know this is more of a problem with sisters. So there's like a very interesting joke on Facebook that if all countries had female presidents, you wouldn't have wars. You just have a lot of countries that wouldn't talk to each other. Allahu Alam, I don't know about partial forgiveness. I've never encountered that before. But I'm sorry. I can't answer that question. Yeah.
What about you get people that are bitter for the sake of being bitter, that they hate you, they have no reason. You have people like that, they're shallow, they just hate people for the sake of it. They have a fallout with you for no reason. You're saying to them, I'm sorry, and they're like, I won't forgive you, and then that confuses me when people just want to hate people for the sake of hating.
Yeah.
Would you be held accountable? And even though it's not your fault, people are twisted. That's where we live in.
So you are on a neutral level, and
you've not done wrong to them, but
yeah,
they feel you've wronged them.
You've wronged them.
No, they feel you've wronged them, but you've done nothing.
Oh no. Like you have to understand that for us, we judge from what's apparent. We cannot judge from what's not apparent, right? For God, it's the same. The apparent and the unapparent are the same to Him. So He'll be able to witness that. That's not an issue for you. Don't worry. Yeah.
If you had a fallout with that person and went to your friend and talked about it,
So repeat that question.
if you had a fallout with that person and went to your friend and talked about it and said you did this to me, would it still?
Okay, we can talk about that's going into Namima territory. I'll talk about that after the class. Okay, yeah. Last one.
What about, say there's two people and one of them harms someone else but the other one witnesses it. Are they both equally accountable?
Oof, tough one. Okay, I'll discuss with you after class. Again, I don't want to say something I'm not too sure of. No, thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, waiter boy. Okay, no. Okay, so we'll get back into the whole, because that's a whole topic in of itself. The topic which you're talking about is namima, ghiba, and it's a very, very dangerous territory. I mean, when I first learned about the rules and the fiqh of all that, it blew me away. I was like, why are we not taught this at a young age? Because the consequences are severe, very severe. But yeah, we can get back into that later. The main point which I wanted to portray from وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, to do righteous deeds, it doesn't just mean do righteous deeds. No, it also implies do deeds that reconcile you with your relationship with God. Do deeds that reconcile your relationship with with the creation of God. And more importantly, reconcile your relationship with yourself. Right? And what do I mean by that? Now, I work with a lot of brothers and sisters who come from backgrounds, alcohol, drugs, even homosexuality. We've had cases of a brother or two who are addicted to homosexual porn, or they've even committed homosexuality and they're confused and they're shattered. Don't laugh. No, seriously. Like, you guys can laugh. I know this is very easy for you to laugh about, but it's so hard to be a Muslim and homosexual today. You have no idea. You can never talk to that person. Astaghfirullah, seriously. Learn to, Sorry? Be a bit more empathetic. It's not a funny situation. I mean, it's easy to make fun of that sort of group of people, but it's really not when you're in that situation. No, I know it's unacceptable. I agree, but you have to understand they have no one to talk to. I mean, you have to understand that some of the scholars which we have, or the imams we have in the mosque, they cannot relate with you whatsoever. These people can't go to their mom and dad. They can't talk to their friends, because if they tell them they're gay, they're like, oh, you're so queer, So who do you talk to? And for me, when I first encountered that, I mean, when this brother opened up to me about, he had this problem, I was like, whoa, subhanAllah, I didn't know what on earth is happening. That's a reality check for me. So the thing that I wanted to get was, I knew one brother, he committed homosexuality, and while he was married, right? He's got a job, he's got kids, etc. But he feels he's gay. He feels he's gay. And he committed an act with one of the mosque's imams. Yeah. So, believe it or not, right? With one of the mosques, because we have such people. I'm not gonna lie, we have such people. Okay. And so this brother, he called me up, and he was literally, he was tears. He was just boiling down. He just couldn't believe what just happened to him. He just couldn't believe it, right? So, I talked to him, I told him, just come to my house, we'll have a chat, etc. And when I saw him, he thinned out. He lost 10 kilos in 2 weeks. Literally, he was just in a breakdown mode. And we went over some of the verses of the Quran about mercy, about forgiveness, and that calmed him down, okay? So he first acknowledged that God can forgive him, okay? But it took him a much longer time for him to forgive himself. It took him a much longer time to forgive himself. So, some of the times we do sins and we have these expressions, oh, I am so angry at myself. I feel so stupid. You're talking to whom? Yourself. So, sometimes it's very important to just make sure that you are at peace with who you are and what your inner reality stands for. Those are 3 very important relationships you must always, always check and maintain. Right? وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Then we move on to the next 2 qualities. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. In English, and advise each other to the truth, and advise each other to patience. Which word is repeated twice in that verse? Tawasaw. Advise one another, okay? Now, I love this word so much. It's really beautiful. Does anybody know what tawasaw actually means? Tawasaw. Huh? Communicating. Anything specific that you have in mind? Huh? You're just using a synonym for communicating, yeah? Well done, excellent. Okay, so it comes from the word tawasaw comes from the word wasiyya. And wasiyya is your will. When you die, you have a will. And what do you write in your will? You want to give the best and most precious things to the most closest people around you. Tawasaw in the form of advice, like it is mentioned here, it implies advising to people in the best form, in the best way, with the best words. Right? It's the best of everything when you advise one another. Okay? And it also has the connotation of mutually advising one another. Mutually advising one another, right? And the best illustration I have is a story about Umar ibn Khattab. So Umar ibn Khattab, you know, is the Hulk guy, the tough dude from the Sahaba, right? He is like the tough man. And the story about him where during his Khalifa, when he was like the king or the president, right? He was a very humble character. Even though he was tough, he loved to look after his people. So every night he'd go around people's houses making sure if they're okay, any problems. And he looks at one dude from one of the windows, right? And he notices this guy's drinking alcohol, right? So you know how Umar is, he goes all Hulk mode, right? And boom, opens the door up. It's like, you're drinking alcohol. And you're doing haram, you're doing wrong, right? And the guy, he maintained his cool. And he said, okay, Umar, okay, I may have done one thing wrong. You have done 3 things wrong. And Umar's like, whoa, hang on. By the way, I'm talking contemporary English. He didn't actually say that, okay? So he's like, what's going on? Explain yourself, right? And so the guy goes, okay, the first thing is, you spied, right? And in Islam, you're not allowed to spy at people. You're not, okay? Number 2, you entered my property without my permission. That's the second one. And we have in the Quran, do not enter people's houses or rooms without their permission. Surah Nur, I think. And number 3, you assume I drank alcohol. Now what did he mean by that? How many chemists have we got in here? Nada? Oh, biomed students. Okay, biomed students, what is the color of alcohol? Colorless. So what can it be confused with? Water. Okay, so now you get the understanding. So Umar ibn Khattab confused it as alcohol. Okay? So Umar ibn Khattab, now you gotta imagine, he's like dumbstruck. So yes?
Sorry, no.
Okay, you just shut yours. Okay, right. So Umar ibn Khattab is dumbstruck. He has no idea what just happened here. So he doesn't do anything, he keeps himself cool, and he leaves the house. Okay? A few days pass, and Umar ibn Khattab is giving like a sermon like I am doing in front of you guys, and he notices that same man at the back of the mosque. After he finishes the sermon, he sits next to the guy and he says, you know, bro, I think, you're right. And ever since that day, I've stopped spying at people. You know? So he humbled himself. He acknowledged his mistake. And this is the president. Which president does that today? Yeah? Now, look at his response. He goes, Umar Khattab, Jazakallah khair. And since that day, I've stopped drinking alcohol. So they both mutually advise one another. And that's exactly how we should be working. You know, one of the things that I really wanted people to reflect on is that one of the biggest ways to identify riya or arrogance in your heart is when you cannot take advice from people. Right? When you think you're much superior to get advice from some lowly person, that means you've got too much arrogance in your heart. Umar al-Khattab was what? He was the president, right? This is just a normal guy who's drinking alcohol and he's telling Umar al-Khattab off. Did not Umar al-Khattab listen to this guy? He did. Did he not go self-check and rectify? He did, right? How many of us do that? You need to make sure your arrogance is not sky high such that you can never take advice. I'm telling you from personal experience, I was a musician. When you're up on stage, the only thing you want to hear is your name, right? And when I started practicing, you know how, so initially like I used to pray wrong, I used to do a lot of wrong things initially, and brothers kept coming to me, brother, you should not do this, it's not good, etc. And I was like, who the hell are you? Who's this guy, man? Who's this mullah on me? So I was like, what is going on here? Okay? But then I learned, okay, actually that's part of the Islamic character. It's to learn how to humble yourself. It's to learn how to be humble, right? So always learn that from this very beautiful word that we have here. Specifically now we look at advise each other to the truth, al-haq, okay? Now what does haq mean? Yep. Truth. Okay. Okay, anything else? Anything else attached to that word? Haq.
Right.
She just said that.
Absolute
Huh? Okay, right is truth, etc. Yeah.
reality.
Absolute reality, al-haqq. Okay, yeah, that's still part of the truth. Anything else?
Right, a right to property.
Okay, a right. Oh, that right. Yeah. Okay. Well then. Okay. Yeah. It's rights. Rights. Okay. Rights of people. Right. It says give people their rights and talk about reality. Okay. Give people their rights and talk about reality. There is an Islamic tradition, a hadith, which says that if you see something wrong, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to act against it. And if you cannot act, what you do, you speak against it. And if you cannot speak against it, then consider it wrong in your heart. And that is the weakest form of faith. In the Islamic tradition, the entire Islamic tradition, it is a religion that gives people their rights. It gives people their rights, you know. I mean, one thing that I found so powerful. So you know, if there's an Islamic state, okay, Muslims are supposed to pay a tax. It's called zakat, 2.5% of your annual savings. And then the people who are non-Muslim, they also pay a tax, which is generally less. From my reading, it's generally less than the zakat system, okay? And then you get the protection, just like you get the protection of the state when you pay your taxes here. Same thing, okay? I swear to God, this is a hadith, I swear to God. There's a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that anyone who harms a non-Muslim who has paid that tax, who is under protection of the Islamic State, anyone who harms him or takes his right, he will not even smell heaven on the Day of Judgment. He will not even smell the fragrance of heaven. Very powerful hadith. And for me, that put everything into perspective. It's a religion that gives people their rights. Yeah? Last thing. And then call others to truth, to patience. Bis-sabr. وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. What does sabr mean? Huh? Yeah, what does sabr mean?
I mean, like, to refrain and abstain from.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Oh, okay. Excellent. She got it, right? Like the most popular meaning is to be steadfast. Whenever calamity hits you, you're supposed to stay strong. But that's not the only meaning attached to that word. There are actually 3 interpretations of this word, according to Tafsir Anwar al-Bayan. The first is to make sure that you stay strong during calamity, hardship. The second one is that you maintain yourself doing good deeds. Strive to do good deeds. The third meaning is you restrain yourself from hardship. From bad things, right? From bad things. These are the 3 things that are encompassed in sabr. And there are plenty of verses in the entire Quran that promote the quality of sabr again and again and again. And it is one of the things that a Muslim should always have within him to make sure that whenever something happens to him, he is always trying to control, reconcile, and improve himself as a character. Every single time. And I told you, life is always switching between 2 tests. Gratefulness in ease, patience or sabr in hardship. Always in between these 2 tests, right? So that's a quick glimpse of each of those qualities. The 4 things which I told you we need for success. Now let's look at and analyze this entire verse on a macro level. You have to understand that what is the conjunction that God used in between these 4 qualities? Did He mention or did He mention and? He mentioned and, showing you what? That you need to have all 4 qualities to be successful. Not 1, not 2, all 4, right? And if you look at the first 2, right? Have faith and do righteous deeds. Compare these with the other 2. Call others to truth and call others to patience. The first 2 are about whom? Yourself. Who are the other 2 about? People. So you have an individual obligation as well as a societal one. I have seen many Muslims who think as long as they pray their 5 times a day, they read their Quran, they go to the mosque, that's it, their job is done. No, buddy, that's not your job. You still have to be an integral part of the society around you. You cannot be a lackadaisy person. That's not how it works, right? You still have a social obligation, and Islam promotes that. You're not supposed to isolate yourself in some corner, in some cave. That's not how it works. You are in an integrated system. But And finally, the most important thing you have to understand is the seeding point of this entire is starting with yourself, first of all. You cannot change the people around you until you change yourself. Only when you inspire yourself with faith do you then act upon it. You then do righteous deeds. And through that, then you promote others to that calling. You call others to truth. And then what you do, you then tell them to sustain themselves in their actions, calling them to patience. Right? Now, in this entire surah, the whole chapter, I told you that Allah, this is the last qasam, the last oath in the Quran. The last oath, right? And in Quranic understandings, there is a relationship between qasam and jawab al-qasam. Jawab al-qasam is an answer to an oath. So imagine if I stole 5 pounds from my mom, okay? And my mom says, Shabi, did you steal the 5 pound? Okay, you know, the whole fresh accent, okay? So she asked for that. And I will say, Mom, I swear. That's the oath. And then I don't just stop there. I say, I swear I didn't steal it. Right? That's the answer, right? In the Quran, specifically in this surah, this is the oath. And God swore by what? Time. Time that is running out very quickly. And the answer to that is these 4 qualities. And to understand the connection, I want to ask all of you if you can just close your eyes and just follow what I'm going to say. Try and create this picture in your mind. Okay? I want you to imagine, right? It's a dark, stormy sea. Right? Black, pitch black, very scary. And you see a black silhouette just floating in the sea. Drowning. And as you get closer to that drowning person, you realize you're looking at yourself. And then you see that silhouette wake up. And you see yourself struggle. Where are you? Why are you in the sea? You have confusion, state, all sorts of horrors across your face, right? And then when you're woken up, what do you try and do? You try and see yourself swimming towards the surface. But when you do that, you realize that you can't, because your hands, your legs are chained to other people. In front of you is your father. Behind you is your mother. Left of you is your brother. Right of you is your sister. And they're all drowning. So what do? You swim to first your father. You wake him up, right? And then you tell him, try and swim up. You then go to whom? Your dad, so your mom. You wake her up. And then when she wakes up, you tell her, try and swim up. And the same thing for your brother and your sister. And through that collective effort, you then break surface and take that breath of air. Now wake up. As in literally wake up, okay? Right? That is your situation in this life, right? You're drowning in a world of absolute subconsciousness. You know, many people act as if they're living in a complete passive state. They're literally sleeping through life. But when that Iman hits you, when that faith enters your heart, you become conscious of who you are. And that's when you first wake up. That's Iman, those who have faith. And when you have faith, what do you try and do? You try and go to the surface. You have to try your very best to do as many good deeds as you can to save yourself. But then you realize it's not just about you. It's about everyone else around you. Your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friends, absolutely everyone. Right? So what do? You have to now go and wake them up. That's what tawasaw bil haqq, calling others to truth. And when you wake them up, you then have to tell them the same thing. You need to try and swim up as well. And only then can you break free and really save yourself from the drowning of this world. And that, in a nutshell, is what this surah, this chapter is trying to illustrate. Right? I hope that gave you some form of project management applications to do when you go back home and try to see where you stand. What do you need to do to try and promote yourself to be a better person? How are you managing your time? Are you going to be opening boxes of treasures in the next life? Or are you going to be opening boxes of, disgust and evil? Or even nothing? So So inshallah, I hope that you benefited from all of that, and I really hope that you took a lot on board and you can apply a lot of what you learned today. Are there any questions regarding the class? Yeah?
Yeah, can you give us the context when the surah was revealed? Does that tell us anything more about?
When was it revealed? I don't know when it was revealed. I can let you know. I actually don't have any indication when it was revealed. That's a good question. Actually, one thing I did forget to say was, Imam Shafi'i, he's a very famous scholar, right, of Islam. He mentioned that if you took everything away from the Quran and just left yourself with one surah, and this would be sufficient for mankind. This surah will be sufficient for mankind. And hopefully we highlighted some of the reasons why, because it does encompass everything. And that's why, like the bro code of the companions, they use this quite a lot, right? Any other questions? No? All right, I just want to say Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, I hope you benefited from all of that, and I'll see you guys next week. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Actually, leave it here. Sorry? Yeah, sure. Guys, I just wanted to mention, I'm going to be here till 9:20. So inshallah, if you have any questions, you can